So we need to shade the sphere. We need to make it so that everything that we've learned up until now applies to what we're looking at, right? So everybody can see the ball in front of them in the classroom here. Each of you have a different angle. So the shadow might be coming on more of an angle, or it might be going away depending on the angle that you're looking at the ball. It's totally good. For my angle, again, I'm going to put the light source up in the corner here, which means my highlight's going to be here. Remember, please remember, like your notes, like we did. Remember how we put, I zoom out on this a little bit. We put lines around the defined areas of the 5 parts of a shadow. Don't draw the lines, okay? This is a review here. What you're doing is we need to establish, kind of, if you think of this as like, where is this, like the part of the ball that's closest to the light, and then exact opposite. Think of those as like, it's not realistically like the north and south poles on the planet, okay? But think of it like that. If you're picturing like a globe, and you've got lines that go, like the map itself, the thing that's round that's sitting in front of you, and you've got lines that go from the North Pole to the South Pole, incrementally all the way around the ball, right? What are those lines called? Anybody know? That's right. Those are longitudinal lines. Think of those lines imaginarily right here on this ball, and that they then go here. I'm gonna do like another example. So here we are. Again, imaginary lines. That line that goes north to south here, straight there. But as soon as I go, to the side of that, if I make a mark halfway between here and here, say, this is going to curve like this. So now it's going to start to look like a beach ball, right? Those lines. And the closer you get to the outside edge, the more curved they get. Okay? And the closer you get to that middle, they don't curve as much. Does everybody kind of see that? Now, if I make some other lines, like the line that says where the light side and the shadow side are, if I'm sitting where this desk is up here in the front, I'm a little bit ahead. I can see a little bit more of the light side than the dark. So remember ellipses? They don't have corners, right? So we come off the side like this, come around here like this, like that. And if I put a whole bunch of these on, I can start to see the form of this sphere. That has the illusion of being round, kind of like if you put a wire mesh around the ball. These are our guidelines. Okay? This is what we're looking at that tell us what direction our lines should go. Now, like you're thinking, you just made 2 sets of lines and they crisscross. Some are going this way, some are going this way. This is what I mean. If I make a mark right here where the light side and the shadow side meet, right across there, I start with a really sharp blue 2B pencil on the shadow side. This is exactly how I want you to do it. Right on that border, okay, imaginary lines. Okay, I'm starting right here on the middle. I'm going to start right here with my shading bands. I'm going to start right in the middle of this thing. And instead of getting lighter, I'm going to stay the same. I'm going to put a band down, just like that. Okay? Now, I need to put another one here. And the reason why I'm going this way is because I need to be able to change value going in lots of different directions. So that's not perfect, but it's not bad. Now I'm going to do another one right underneath here. But as I start to do this, I'm looking at these lines here. I'm visualizing them. These lines here, you can see how the direction of my line stayed pretty well flat, right? But here, everything needs to start to point towards this bottom point. So as I bring this band across, I need to start to angle like everything's curving to this point here. So every single mark that I make is describing the curve of the surface. And the closer I get, the more dramatic that curve needs to be until it matches this outside curve. And I'm just laying a base layer. And down here, you got to trust it. I'm just laying down value. Now I'm going to go this way. Remember not to smudge. Pencil's starting to get dull. So now I need to go sharpen my pencil, because if I don't use a sharp pencil, then blending is going to take forever. So keep a pencil sharp, and it's going to save you so much time and effort. In here. Going in lots of different directions because it's starting to change because I'm looking at the curve of the surface. I don't want these lines to come across here and end right here. Everything's pointing to the bottom. The shadow side is definitely easier than the light side. And now I've got the shadow side all blocked in. It's all roughed in. And now the next step is come in here with my resharpen my 2B. Okay, here we go. And now I need to start working on blending. But on the shadow side, I also need to be aware of where my reflected light's going to be and where my shadow core is going to be. Shadow core is darker than reflected light. So if I just keep blending here, I could lose it. So I need to make sure that this stays lighter. So I can start to block in where I want my shadow core to be, and I can build that up. Remember, shading is all about layering the graphite. And remember, your reflected light doesn't go any higher than halfway. So all these marks I've made on the outside, you can totally make them and then erase them at the end. They're not interfering with anything you're making, any mark you're making here. So as I put this in, I'm just paying attention to the direction of the surface that I'm shading. And I blend this out. Remember, the shadow core doesn't go all the way to the edge, but it also starts to fade as it gets towards the middle. So if we go back to this, if this is the line that I see between light side and shadow side, my shadow core stops here, and I'll just blend into this as it blends into the light side. This makes a quick change here, but it also blends down here. Reflected light doesn't come up so high. So I'm building this up like this. I want this to be as smooth as possible. and it gets quite skinny as I come around here. Now here's a trick. I'm starting to get to where I can't reach over this very easy, and I'm running the risk of getting my hand into the graphite that's already been laid, and I don't want to smudge or smear. Because remember, in your final project, if you smudge or smear anything, I won't accept it. You got to stay in control. So I'll lay this paper on top of what I don't want to smear. I'll hold it with my offhand, and I can rub my hand here all I want, and I'm not going to smear. And I want to get my shadow core some skinny and thin down here and have it slowly grow. And I can look at what I'm drawing on my out in front of me, making sure that I am putting down what I see, and I'm skipping around to blend or feather that edge. Now, my shadow core can probably still go darker, but I don't want to go to 100% at this point because I want to bring everything along together. Certainly you can't draw everything all at once. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is block one thing in and then go to another part. Okay, so I've got that close. My reflected light has been established. My shadow core, I know where it's going to be. Halftone is where I'm going to go next. So I get my 2H, and now we're going to come up here. Start in the middle once again. Very lightly, you see, remember I'm holding my pencil. I'm holding the sides, and I'm holding at least halfway up the pencil. Could go a little bit more as long as you're in control of the tip of the pencil. Okay. Come in here, the same story applies. Up here, remember, I've got a highlight that lives right there or somewhere near it, and make sure that it's lined up with that center line that's non-existent. Don't put it down here, don't put it up here with your light source here. Okay. All of this points up here. This first band is easy because I don't have to, it's just flat, just like our other bands. And I'm just blocking it in. I'm gonna go lighter here. Making sure I'm describing the curve of the surface. And lighter and lighter and lighter. So I get to where that highlight's going to be about right there. And that's where I'm blending to white, right in there. And I use my 2H to blend all of these bands together. There's certainly more than one way to shade. This is one way, and I want you to try it. I want you to do it. I want you to master it and get really good at it. There's other ways with other mediums. Cross-hatching works great for pen and ink, but that's not what we're doing. Okay. And get my 2H, and I can come in right here and I can blend like crazy. Say I get all of this done here. You can start to see the curve of that ball. Yes? I hope you can. Then I can come back in here with my 6B and very gently, very small, we don't want to overcook this thing. You can push the dark right up here. And it's like the only thing you're doing here really is blending. Just the littlest bit right down the middle of this bit. Then when it's time to do your cast shadow, again, remember, right here where the ball touches the surface it's sitting on, you start there, and if you want, you can make a very straight, a very flat line. Now, I'm going straight away. Straight line, and it's longer than the paper has room, so we're just gonna have it go off the page. So right here, there's a little bit of a curve, and it's just a kind of a big old ellipse that goes off the page. The important thing to understand when you're shading your cast shadow is that you're describing a flat surface. Your flat surface is horizontal, so make your bands going this way. And then you do another band here. If you see variation in the shadow, like the reflected shadow that we talked about, like there's a secondary reflected light. Light comes down here, hits here, establishes the reflected light, and then comes down in here. Some people, depending on their angle, can see a little bit of reflection in this part of the cast shadow. If you can see it, then definitely record it. Okay. Put these in here. Don't go up and down this way, because it will make it look like your shadow is standing on its edge. Shadows, don't do that. Okay. Keep going with that. Keep going with this. We'll probably take 2 days, 2 class periods to finish this. Is that okay? Okay, here it is, all finished, and a couple of things that I want you to see just as a review. Shadow core doesn't go all the way to the edge. We get a little bit, especially in this particular room. We've got a lot of windows over here, and so this may change a little bit depending on where you're sitting. The background, I've shaded it in. You can see I've gone in lots of different directions. That is because it's just shadow in the distance. I'm not shading anything in particular, so going in lots of different directions definitely helps to describe nothing. You don't want to focus on what direction you're going here. Just go in lots of different directions if you want to do it. It is not required. Please don't feel like you need to add all this in. What I am looking for is no evidence of individual bands being shaded through here. You can develop your shadow or your halftone, just a little bit more, but just even blending throughout, making sure that you get a nice sharp edge down here and that you have an established reflected light, established shadow core, halftone, highlight, and of course the cast shadow. I'm not too worried about the edges. Anyway, there you go. I could probably do this, blend it a little bit more, right through here maybe. There's like a dark spot there. Not too worried about it. I want you to show me that you can blend. All right, good job. There you go.